Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our Open Day presentation. It's fantastic that we've got so much interest in the school, and we are delighted that you could join us tonight. Of course, in a usual Open Day, we're up in the hall answering these questions as part of your tour around the school. And at this stage, we know that about half of you that are on tonight have done that tour, and many of you will come tomorrow. The weather's looking a little inclement though, so certainly bring an umbrella as you do this. We are delighted though that we could do a webinar tonight, and some of you will be very used to this format. Of course, COVID's delivered us a number of challenges, but one of the things that we're finding is the webinar series that the school has been doing have been incredibly successful with great attendances, and they come to you at a time that's very convenient. Now, I know 5:30 isn't convenient for everybody in the afternoon, and that's one of the benefits of this, because we can record and send these out to families. Tonight, though, you will have an opportunity to ask questions, and there's a Q&A button at the bottom of this screen and your screens. And if you've got questions, we give you some time towards the end, and our idea around that is that we can have a conversation at the end and answer any questions that you might have. We are going to have a PowerPoint that will be on this screen. With me tonight, though, just so you can see who's in the room, I've got Mrs. Lisa Peterson over on this side. Lisa runs the teaching and learning side of the school for Year 7 to 12. She's our Director of Teaching and Learning. She looks after students with individual programs and does some amazing work with all of our students here at the school. Also, to my right, I've got Mr. Daniel Cozy. Daniel reimagined our co-curricular program, and holistic education is absolutely one of our key areas. Co-curricular is incredibly important to our families and to our students, and we have a wonderful cutting-edge co-curricular program. Daniel also was responsible for bringing on board the supporting athlete program here. And we do some incredible work with elite athletes. And I know some students that are interested in our school next year will definitely fall into that category. And on my left, I have Mr. Alan Parsons, and Alan is the Deputy Principal of the secondary school. Alan is responsible for overseeing our wellbeing programs, overseeing our house system, managing behaviour, and working with students and families to ensure that we have the best outcomes for every child in this school. So they are your panel tonight. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Erica Thomas. I'm the head of Newcastle Grammar School. Newcastle Grammar School is a wonderful school, split over 2 campuses. But tonight we've got parents in the room, mainly from Year 7 upwards for next year. And the secondary school is going to be our focus for tonight's presentation. So we're going to move to the PowerPoint. This will take around 20 minutes to go through, and then we're going to open up for questions and comments from the audience that are with us. We are very, very proud of all of our students, and I always like to start with this idea of what would a student be like who leaves our school. And we have 3 very, very key aims for students as they move through this school. So they develop an understanding of what the heart is, the head, and the hand. And for you, we want students who are emotionally competent. We want them to understand empathy and understand where people are coming from. We want them to be grateful for the opportunities they've had. And we want them to be building a very resilient character where they can move into a future world where they can draw on many of these skills and understand that these come from within them. We want the graduate of this school to understand that they are a learner, and learning is lifelong. We want them to be understanding that the head delivers things like the ability to work with others, the ability to reflect on what they do as part of their learning and improve, and the ability and the understanding that every student in this school is striving for excellence in their academic work, no matter what ability they are. We know that success is relative, and we know that if you have the right mindset, you will achieve academically. And so the head is really important. And the last part of this is the hand. And we believe that The heart, the head, and the hand go together really, really nicely. And the hand, of course, is that idea that you have humanitarian values, that you understand and respect diversity, that you work within your immediate world, but you're also very cognizant of what's happening in the outside world, and that you can contribute positively to any community. So we have these three graduate aims: the heart, the head, and the hand. We also have a learning framework at NGS, and the framework is, sorry, it's bigger than a learning framework. The framework says that our four key values: respect, integrity, service, and excellence. And we use the acronym RISE: respect, integrity, service, and excellence, are at the basis of everything that we do. You can see in the next part of the wheel, though, there are attitudes and there are things that we want to develop as part of the journey here. And we keep moving in and in and in into this wheel with some of the key learning attributes that we want, some of the key emotional things that we want, and that we are trying to work with every student to ensure that they understand that we have things that frame us. We have collective learnings that we can make and values that are very, very important to our lives. We are incredibly proud of our HSC results. Last year, we were the top performing school outside of the Sydney metropolitan area at the HSC. We know, though, that most of our students that go through this school understand that at the end of it all, it's their personal best that we're looking for. If you look at that board, there are some amazing results there, without any doubt. We have always ATARs in the 99s pluses, but it's our median ATAR that I'm always very, very happy with. And if you can see there that over 58% of our students attained an ATAR over 85, we're doing very, very well with that middle group and our lower end as well. I love the fact that so many of our students over now the last 10 to 11 years, I think we've put up there this year, are getting nominations for the best practical major works in courses like music, drama, in design and technology, in visual arts. And what I'm really, really pleased about is that we're providing students with diverse talents the absolute best and the opportunities to achieve at their best. We are thrilled with our results over the last 3 years. The consistency of those results at the end really are a testament to what happens early on, and it's a testament to what happens from year 7 upwards in all of our classrooms. We have a curriculum that fits in with the NESA, or the New South Wales Educational Standards Authority curriculum. The curriculum is also set by the Australian government, and we have 2 things here in New South Wales that we've got to comply with. You'll see there that in year 5 and 6, our students are studying literacy and numeracy like any other primary school. But year 7 is the time where things begin to really become diversified. Our students study around 10 different subjects in year 7. We give them one choice, and that's the choice of language. And they can study French, Japanese, or Mandarin from the start of year 7, and they keep that language for 2 years. In addition to the core curriculum, we do religious education here and positive education. I'll talk a little bit about those in a moment. Students begin to choose subjects in year 9, and from year 9, this school operates with core subjects, and they are English, Maths, Science, History, Geography, and PE. They're the core subjects, but after that, with the religion and pos ed, and after that, though, they can choose a range of different subjects. And this can be drama, it can be STEM, it can be design and technology. We can't put all the detail on here at this stage, but that's where really we find that students are beginning to diversify their takings. And we do run from year 9 2 accelerated programs, one in mathematics for very talented mathematicians. They go on and do the HSC and Extension 1 Maths a year early. And we also run an accelerated business studies program, and they would sit the business studies exam when they are in year 11. You can see by the time you hit year 11 and 12, the only compulsory subject at that point is English. Some of you will be very familiar with the New South Wales system, others of you won't. And I always get the question, you mean maths isn't compulsory? And we advise strongly that you do maths, and many universities these days are requiring you for certain courses to have studied maths. And most of the students here do study maths. But at that point, you get a very, very diverse group of subjects that students can study, and extension subjects that students can study. And again, we can't put everything up there, but that will give you just a little bit of a taste. I do get the question as well, what if my child hasn't studied a language and they're coming into year 7? You can see there that year 5 and 6 have already studied Mandarin. It won't matter. Our teachers are very, very experienced at managing a diverse range of students coming in at that year 7 level. Sometimes we get some students that are outstanding speakers of those languages in year 7. Other times we get students that have not studied any language in primary. And we just ask that you make a choice and that teacher works with that student. And everyone ends up roughly at the same level. Certainly we've got some very, very talented language students here. They tend to take language all the way through to the HSC. But languages have a very interesting pathway to the HSC, and some background languages, and if you've spoken that at home or spoken that for a long time, you have to do different courses to everybody else. So that's just something to, I think, allay some of the fears around language going into year 7 in particular. We have in our secondary school a very, very strong learning framework, and we work in our secondary school. Our primary students come through having had an inquiry framework. And our secondary school uses a mixture of that framework. We are very pleased that we follow what's called the quality teaching model and something called visible learning in our secondary school. This allows students to really look at things deeply. We have an acronym called Challenge that creates a very supportive environment. And that acronym is something that we definitely work on. And it requires students to develop really key competencies across curriculum areas and in each subject. And staff work with the students. And the reason why we like the Challenge acronym is that every part of your learning should challenge you. That is the way that you learn. And we know that they're going to need a number of key hard and soft skills to manage the future. To support the learning, our classroom teachers will support learning incredibly well. But one thing that works here, and we have many, many students who enjoy this part of our school, we run a homework and learning centre every afternoon till 5:30 in the afternoon. And year 5 and 6 have a homework centre in their own part of the school. But we also have a centre for year 7 to 10, and we have teachers and tutors who are on duty every afternoon. And those teachers and tutors in the library work with year 7 to 10 until 5:30 in the afternoon. And year 11 and 12 have a centre that opens for them until 7 p.m. every night and in holidays. And we have programs that run during that period for those older students, but we also have very specific tutoring that goes on. And it means that a child going through secondary school can pop in and say, look, I'm having problems with this English essay, or I can't do that maths problem. And this really helps families. There's no additional charge for this service. It's something that we run as part of our learning service in the school. And students sometimes who struggle to get into the routine with homework love to go to that centre. They can work with a tutor. They can work with another student. And we find that quickly really helps them. We'll have a lot of children coming through from schools where there's not been a lot of homework. And Mrs. Peterson, I think you've seen that. Oh, and all of a sudden doing 10 subjects and making sure that, you know, I've got homework tonight for this and I've got to manage a long-term assignment. That is something that we really work hard with our year 7 students. For the first time, apart from NAPLAN, students will sit exams in year 7. And a range of different exams. And so we've got to make sure that they're prepared and open to doing that. We have a learning management system in the school called Schoolbox, and parents are able to log in to see what work is coming up for their child. You're also able to log in and see what marks they've got for their assignments. and look at what's happening in their calendar and their timetable. And our Year 7 to 12 students bring their own device to school. And this program doesn't mean that they're using a computer 100% of the day. It means that that's balanced usually fairly nicely in the classroom. We recommend devices too that work better with the school. And if you are interested in this school, you'll get our BYO device recommendation. I usually say too that kids going through secondary school will probably need 2 devices. They'll need one for Year 7, 8, 9, and possibly that device will stay for till Year 10, the end of Year 10, but they'll need something different for Year 11 and 12. We are a cross-platform school, and so a range of devices will work in our school. Our wellbeing structure is something that we're absolutely known for, and many people look at our school because of the wellbeing structure that we have in place. We have a house structure, and your child will be assigned to a house with a house coordinator and a mentor. That mentor in secondary sees your child every single day. And if they are in Year 7 and 8, that same mentor will be with that child, assuming the teacher is at the school, but usually our staff love being here and they stay for Year 7 and 8. And the child will then move into a different mentor with a different teacher for Year 9, 10, 11 and 12. And they can go through Year 9 to 12 with the same person, checking in with them every day to make sure that they know them very, very well. This is one very, very special part of our school, this vertical house system. It allows for older students to help monitor and mentor younger students and role model to them what's coming, but also that care and concern. And it allows a teacher to know your child incredibly well. We have an explicit positive education program, and 3 years ago, our school went down a path where we trained every teacher in visible wellbeing. We decided that wellbeing was one of the key things that we wanted to do as a point of difference to other schools. And this is a very, very explicit program. And your child will be involved in POS-Ed lessons where they're learning a range of things to be grateful. They'll be learning their character strengths. They'll be learning how to harness those strengths in interactions with others, but also in their learning. And that is a really positive part of what we do at this school. We've had a wonderful house day today where students have been running around. They've been doing some challenges with their mentor group, but they've also been thinking about what are some of their strengths and how do we harness these. And that was all in the name of fundraising for some different organisations. And we do one of those every term, but it really helps bond the students here. We have some significant leadership opportunities for students, both within the main part of the school, but also in the co-curricular part of the school. We have a mobile phone policy at this school that says no mobile phones. Your child can bring a mobile phone to school, but there are incredible consequences if they're out during the school day. We're one of the few schools in the Hunter that has that policy, and we do it because we know that that brings about better wellbeing aims for the students, and it also leads to greater academic concentration and success. When I say they can bring it to school, it gets locked in their locker and they can't look at it until they leave in the afternoon. But this is a policy that we've had now for the last 3 years, and it is working incredibly well in our school. We have a behavioural management system. We deal with around 600 adolescent kids every day, and you need a behavioural management system to manage that. Yes, you can think about what that might be like for those of you this is your oldest child, a behavioural management system. I can say, though, that we do not have severe behavioural management problems here. Sometimes things go wrong, and we are judged by the way we manage those. And Mr. Parsons, I think you'll agree that some of it has to do sometimes with a few little things in the playground, but we're really working hard with our kids to make sure that those are reduced. We work very, very hard to make sure that we have very few social media incidences. And, you know, you'll be well aware that there have been some significant issues in the press recently around adolescence and things that have gone wrong. And our school is taking an incredibly proactive response to those. And I'm happy in the question time, if you want to talk about that a bit further. We have opportunities for service. Today's activities and games that some of the kids were playing and challenges that they were taking was all about raising money for Jenny's Place here in Newcastle, but also our Vietnam project. We have a partnership with a school and an orphanage in Vietnam, and we work very, very closely. And one of the wonderful things about our school is, in a non-COVID world, we take students to Vietnam, usually in December, from about year 10 is roughly the right age upwards, although we've had some year 9s come on that trip. And they teach English and they work in that orphanage to do community work and in that school. And this is something that is life-changing for many of our students. We do have counselling services here. We have a number of range of services at the school, and for our high-performing athletes, we have a particular service, but that person also works not just, as I'd say, during the counselling program, but helps students with motivation issues, helps students in a range of issues. And we have traditional counselling and probably a little more proactive type services at this school as well. That is our wellbeing structure, and it's wonderful. The other thing that many parents are looking at is this idea of a school where there are different activities. We have kids here who have really different and diverse interests, and we have a co-curricular program now that really taps into that. If I look at some of those ideas, skills for the future could be something like learning how to write a CV and financial management, learning how to do certain work areas, and whether it's working in a local cafe or whatever it might be that might help you as you move through school. If I look at things such as service and leadership, we belong to an amazing organisation called Round Square, and that's within that category. And Round Square is around 200 schools across the world who provide conferences and exchanges for kids that are not language-based. And we have a whole committee there, like a traditional SRC, that's made up of students in this school that do some fantastic work in service and leadership. We have bees in our school, and some of you saw that for the first time, but the environment, and we know that young people are really connected in there. At the same point, though, we've got some traditional sports like netball. Rowing is a big sport here. We do things like sailing, and they fall into things like outdoor adventure. Movement for life, though. COVID taught us one thing, and that is, how do we actually ingrain in every child this idea that you need to move and you need to have that through your life? We imagined or reimagined our co-curricular program during COVID, and we decided that the thing that we could do for students coming into our school in the next few years, as well as students that are in this school, is to say that these things are interconnected, that these things and these areas should form part of your life, no matter what part of your life you're looking at. And we're delighted. We've never had uptake like it as we rebadge some of these activities. And I think Mr. Cozy told me that we've got more kids wanting to do art after school than we've ever seen before. We've got more kids wanting to be involved in some of these activities than we've ever seen. And there's a very, very exciting thing. And if you haven't looked at our website, go on and you can have a look at what we're actually running underneath this banner in the co-curricular program. For parents, what this does is it allows you to find 2 to 3 activities your child has passion with. It allows students to find like-minded students, and it adds to the holistic education and framework that we're able to offer here. And we find that kids in the same family do very diverse afternoon activities, and they're mainly run after school. We run buses later in the afternoon so they can get home. But secondary school becomes a very exciting place for students to be when some of these things happen in their lives each week. It leads well into this idea of a holistic education, and we have a camp program for years 5 to 9. I talked a little bit about Round Square, where we can really embrace the global, even in a COVID world. I'm in awe of some of the things that are going on using technology around the world and coming into this school. Our service learning opportunities, we have exchange programs and sister schools in our 3 target languages So we have an exchange opportunity in France, in China, and in Japan for students. From Year 9, our students, and many of them get involved in the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme, and many of you would know that this is a wonderful program that really enhances a student's experience. It involves definitely an outdoor trek or canoe or something along those lines, but it also involves learning new skills and committing to service to others. We have clubs that run in the afternoon from science to environment, and we talked about our leadership structure. But we do find that most kids in our school get involved in some way in a whole lot of these different areas. We have a school that runs from 8:30 in the morning to 3:05. I generally say students should be at school around 8:20 in the morning. They move between 4 classes per day, and we only have 4 lessons. During COVID, we reimagined to what our timetable should look like, and we decided that for teaching and learning, those 4 classes per day work absolutely brilliantly. We have a wonderful service each week at Christchurch Cathedral. It's a 20-minute chapel service and time of quiet reflection, and that's a student-led service. We haven't been running it as much during COVID because the cathedral, of course, has restrictions on the numbers of people there, but we have just started going back to that. And as Mr. Parsons always says, we have the best chapel of anybody in Australia where we can walk across to the beautiful Christchurch Cathedral each week. Our buses run from Lake Macquarie, Nelson Bay, Maitland, Minmi and Merewether. And we work with families as best we can to make sure that we're servicing the areas that you come from. We are a very tight city campus, and you know that Newcastle and space in Newcastle is really tricky now. But we have a wonderful partnership with Fernley Dawes Track, which is only about a 5-minute bus ride from here, down in National Park. We are able to utilise all the local pools as part of our program for PE. And we tend to bus students off-site for PE. Again, that's been a COVID restricted activity, but we're starting to see the iron that that's getting back to fairly normal now. I'm always asked the question about class sizes, and your average class size is between about 17 and 23 students. Year 7 this year has started with 23 or 24 students in a class, and we would expect around a maximum of 25 for Year 7. We run 5 classes of Year 7 students, and those 5 classes are graded into an upper stream, a middle stream and a lower stream, and we set the challenge bar at the right level for every kid who comes into our school. And we find that even kids in that lower stream are achieving unbelievable results by the time they're in Year 9, 10, but more importantly in Year 11 and 12, and it's right to have that grade. We find that works really, really well for students. When I look at this school, we're so proud that we are in a school that's been around for over 100 years. In 1976, this school became a much more modern co-educational school. There are 960 kids at our school now between kindergarten and Year 12, and we run Year 5 to 12 on this campus, and there are around 650 students on this campus every day. It's a tight one, but we actually stagger lunch times. We make sure that PE is working well outside, and we hire extra facilities in the local area that students can walk to at lunchtime to really, with staff, to run around. And that's how we manage this. And we find that being in the local community is something that works really well for our students. It's one thing to be behind these wonderful sandstone gates. It's another thing, though, to enjoy the facilities that are so close to us. What happens in terms of applications? Many of you have already put in an application for Year 7 or for some of the older years for this year. You submit that application, you get an invitation to attend an interview, and then we send you a letter of offer. If you're considering whether you want to do this or not, I'll tell you 2 to 3 key things at this stage. Year 7 is one of our biggest entry points, and places are tricky coming into Year 7. Newcastle is a growing city. If you don't have an application with us and you're seriously considering us, I advise you to put the application in as soon as you possibly can. We will run for Year 7, and many of your Year 7 2022 parents that are listening tonight, we'll run the interview process in May, and we do ask you to really consider whether you do want that place. We will open that up in order of receipt of application. But we're also very, very conscious that some families need us, that you've moved recently into the area. There's a range of things that come into that. So that application, as I said, getting that in as soon as possible is really important. If your child is sitting the scholarship exam, it is still wise to put in an application if you are considering us. The scholarships are highly sought after. We would at the moment have close to about 70 or so applications for scholarships. And you'll know that scholarships range from academic scholarships through to sport, to art, and to music. And there are some all-rounder scholarships as well. I am saying this just so that you're really clear. Scholarships, as I said, are very, very highly sought after. We are not a waiting room for Merewether and an insurance policy for Merewether Selective School. If you take a place because you're offered a scholarship and then don't take it up, you are taking the place of a child who would love to come here. And you will be asked this many times if you're invited to a scholarship interview, is this the school that is your first choice? We are a different school. We have a holistic education and a very, very different philosophy. We have a wonderful academic support centre in our library each afternoon. We have a brilliant co-curricular program. We have a first-rate wellbeing program. And yes, this is a different school in that you have to pay money to come to this school. You do, though, of course, in the state system also have to pay. But I need to be really, really clear that we want students who want to come here, not students who are using us as a second choice for an academic scholarship, only in case they don't get into Merewether. So I'd ask you to be honest around this, to think about whether this is your first choice, and to really commit to an environment. We offer 50% off school fees for scholarships. I can't tell you how much that means to many of the families that come here. And so that's something that I always deal with now at Open Day, because I do believe it's really important to be upfront about how this is a really key part, definitely of our process. And that's asking you, is this the school of your first choice? And we want you to be honest with us in that. I think, though, that we have lots of kids here that I always get asked the question about the academic scholarship test. You know, my child wants to do art. Is that okay? I do not only look, and we have a panel that looks at these, and we do not only look at the top, we look at a range of students, but we ask every child who's applying for a scholarship to do the test, so that we can see where you're at with your learning. And that's just a little bit of a hoop that we ask you to follow through. But if you're coming for sport, there'll be an interview. Music, there'll be an interview and a practical test. If you're coming for art, you've already had to, or you are submitting a portfolio. So there are a number of things that you've got to do with that, and there'll be an interview for all of those. We have a range of students in our school, and that's what makes us who we are. A very, very diverse school, one that wants absolutely top academic standards from every child in this school. And that's what's driving those academic results, that our students know that they're well supported, they're well cared for, and that we really appreciate each and every single one of them. We run orientation days for our school, and we know, and we weren't quite sure when we were putting this one together, we think we can actually run an experience day for Year 7 in a few weeks' time. And wow, after the year we've had, that will be brilliant to bring in students for an experience day of high school. And we're going to run that in the first week of term 2. We have an orientation, though, session in term 4. And for other year groups, we bring you back just before school starts in January. And that'll be January 2022. I'm looking at that before school starts. And that will be your orientation thing. But it's really important to make sure that you're feeling comfortable, that you meet people who are going to look after you, that you meet other students who will stick with you depending on your age, and that the start here works really, really well with a key teacher who you'll meet looking after you. But I'm pretty excited that we can do that experience day. People ask me constantly, what is the NGS experience? And we look at a holistic education, academic excellence. We've got a very well-resourced campus. We've got a dedicated and experienced staff who work here. And our investment in our staff is something we really value, their professional learning. We have a positive education wellbeing program. We have these teaching and learning frameworks that challenge every child. We offer global, and we've got a wide range of opportunities through Cocurricular, through Round Square, through our international connections. All of these things really stand us as such a unique school. And that's often what people are looking for, this wide range, that their child is going to be known and that their child is going to progress through our school doing absolutely the best that they can be. And we often say that, bring the best version of yourself to school every day. And what we want is that you are the best that you can be. So that brings us to the end of the formal presentation. I can already see there's one question there. I'm going to give you a few minutes though to just jot down any questions that you'd like to answer. Just go to the Q&A at the bottom there. But Mr. Cozy, I might just pass over to you to start with, because you're always the one that loves to start, and I know that. Can you tell everyone a little bit more about why we chose to go down that path with our co-curricular program called the NGS Passport?
Yeah, sure. I think the belief started and the dream of this program started through the COVID period, where we had the chance to sit back and reimagine what we could offer and what this uncertain world was going to be like once we got through the COVID period. So matching that uncertainty, we went back to what skills students needed for this uncertain world, and what we could build in our students into their portfolio, working with the University of Newcastle as well about what might post-COVID era look like in terms of tertiary entrance, and several industry partners have also given us feedback about what that might look like for our students post-school. But also having the chance to sit back, very rare in anybody's career to have that time to sit back to think about what was innovative and what things that our students would actually like to do versus what was just traditional. So yeah, gave us a bit of an opportunity to reimagine the whole thing and create some graduates for an uncertain future.
And I really love the fact that every kid that's involved, every child that's involved in our co-curricular program is actually contributing to a digital portfolio that they will receive when they leave school. They do a reflection on every co-curric that they do at the end. And I think that that's just such a bonus in many ways. And this was Mr. Cozy's very, very good idea to do that. And I thought that was lovely. So I've got a number of questions, and I'm going to start with, and I might just start with the first one. How strong is the Christian faith taught at school? We have a religious education lesson once a fortnight for year 7 to 10. That religious education lesson ranges from a range of things, understanding Christianity and the Christian perspective in the world is certainly one particular part. The other part is around ethical thinking and ethical behaviours. And depending on the age of your child, you could do a range of topics within that program. It's taught through our history program, and it's divided into a few weeks and various lessons at various points throughout the year to maximise a child's understanding. And when I can say that, for example, history in year 8 would cover the Crusades. And so at that point, it's a really good point to actually look at, what do Christians believe? What do people who are Islamic believe? And that really helps the understanding of the program itself. We go over to Christchurch Cathedral once a week. It's a 20-minute service. It's student-led, but the Dean of the Cathedral is absolutely wonderful. She always tunes into what we're doing in a term. So I can tell you she'll give a sermon, for example, that for about 5 minutes that will run on the theme of gratitude, and talk a little bit about how that plays out in a Christian perspective. So it is a real mix of things that your child will be exposed to. We believe spiritual development is important to them. We know we have children here from multi-faiths and multi-faith backgrounds, and our respect for them is as high as they have respect for what they're hearing in these lessons, and it's really important. That is part of any child's education in our view. So I hope that answered that one. How does the school keep the sustainable high performance in HSC tuition? Mrs. Peterson, I'm going to throw to you. It's not just for the HSC exam, we know that. No. And so can you please answer that a little bit?
Absolutely, I can answer that. I think that those results come as a result of our focus on process, and of the importance we place on students striving to be their very best, to reaching their academic potential, striving for growth, striving for mastery, and knowing how to achieve that. And so right from the beginning of Year 7, we talk about the importance of the learning process, and we guide students through a range of different strategies on how to be effective learners, and through that, through our focus on striving for mastery, through our focus on deliberate practice and grit, which is embedded in both our academic and wellbeing programs, our students are always working towards being the very best that they can be, both academically and socially and emotionally. And we see that play out in our HSC results, not just through high academic results, but incredible growth rates. And for me, I think that that's one of the key things that constantly in our results, our external results, be that NAPLAN or HSC, we see incredible growth in our students, in their learning progress. And I think that that's what matters most. And it's also a culture. We value learning, and our students value learning. And so the success and sense of accomplishment that comes through doing well academically feeds into that sustained motivation and sustained performance.
I think too, and Mrs. Peterson, I think you'll agree, one of the things we do is data track students, and we are looking to see whether they are meeting certain goals, and we have software that we use in that. The other thing that I always love about that Year 7 program is that you bring in an expert in study skills, and you bring in the parents as well as the child, and they sit there and look at how can we really help from that very, very young age, and you do that at certain points throughout the schooling, because we know that kids pick up things at various points, and that study skills program I think is absolutely, phenomenal. And parents, we know that it can really help you too to do that. We know the homework centre really helps you too in the afternoons. So I think that was a great one. The next one is, can we bring our child to the open day tomorrow? Yes, you can. All you can do is you can email Mrs. McGowan, and if you knew about this presentation, you should have her email address. If you don't, please just turn up. We have a few people that haven't registered at this point, but we are expecting around 150 people or so tomorrow afternoon. But if you come along, we'd be delighted to see you, and we'll just register you there. We're running these in a very COVID safe way, in sort of small groups, moving around the school as quickly as they can. And seeing things. We have a lot of things on display in the afternoons for you to have a look at. We'd be delighted to see you. When will the results of the academic scholarship be announced? That's probably another one for me. The scholarship test, as you know, is next week. We announced those results at the start of term 2. There'll be a round 1 sort of group who will put out, and we'll have a few reserves on that list, and you'll find out if you're in the round 1 or you're on the reserve list for that scholarship. So the answer to that is late April, early May. I'm just trying to think of the dates. Around the time of the interviews, and they take place. How are the class gradings determined, Mrs. Peterson?
It depends on the year group. For our Year 7 students, because we have such a diverse group coming into the school, we rely on a range of data. So part of the orientation session that they will do in Term 4 includes a range of academic assessments, and we use that data as a starting point for placing students in our classes. We then look at NAPLAN, we look at reports that are provided for our students, and we engage in a consultative process. For our students in other year groups, classes are graded depending on previous performance. We also look at a range of other factors, including social and emotional factors, and ensuring that we have a gender balance across our year groups as well. So it's quite an involved process, always designed to ensure that we're meeting the needs of our students and providing them with an environment that best meets their level of achievement at that point in time.
I will come back to you in a minute, Mrs. Peterson, because the next one's about university applications. But Mr. Parsons, I think at this stage, can you think for a moment, the curriculum incorporating Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, culture, history and lived experience, what do we do in that area? Because I know you're absolutely passionate about it, so I'm going to throw to you there.
Okay, so we're currently developing a reconciliation action plan here at the school. We have a number of parents, students and staff who are particularly interested in working more closely with the Awabakal and Worimi people to ensure that everything that we do here is culturally sound. We do acknowledge the fact that we are on Worimi and Awabakal land, and we do that regularly at all our formal occasions, including assemblies and chapel services. And so that's the main process that we're going through currently, is working with the local communities to develop those stronger relationships and to bring members of those communities into our school.
And Lisa, you can talk about curriculum as well.
Can I add to that? Thank you, Mrs. Thomas. It is a requirement of all teachers and all curriculums to embed the development of understanding and respect for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. It is one of the general capabilities and cross-curricular priority areas. So in every classroom, in every subject, teachers are integrating learning about Aboriginal people and cultures to advance that cultural understanding and recognition.
Perfect. And while you're talking, universities, US and UK, you and I are the people who know all about the US and the UK university applications. Do we support that?
Absolutely.
And we're both fairly well versed in the SATs for the US and also applications to some of the top-end universities in the UK.
We are able to administer the Cambridge University's entrance exams here, and we have been successful in students being accepted into UK and US colleges over the past few years.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's funny in a COVID world, we've still had students that are interested in where this pathway might take them. We have a very strong Year 12 program, a Year 12 coordinator, a careers program, a mentor program for every single member of Year 12 from a senior member of staff. And we know that our students are looking widely in Australia, but they're also looking overseas. And so, yes, we've had experience in both the US and the UK. How do you blend... Oh, what proportion of your Year 7 intake comprises new students? It's usually around 50-50. And how do you blend the new students with those who've been here longer? Mr. Parsons, do you want to talk to that for a few minutes?
So we have a really strong orientation program. We start with the experience day where those students come together from all the different schools, including our own school. We also set challenges for our students who are at this school. Their challenge on these orientation days is to make sure that they walk away having met at least 3 new people. We might set the number at 3 or 4 or 5, but to have done that. We also set up very strong buddy systems. One of the strong benefits of having a vertical house wellbeing program is that although students are coming into a cohort of, say, 100 students in Year 7, they're broken down into 4 groups of 25. So straight away, you've got 12 or 13 students who have been here for a period, 12 or 13 students who are new, and with such a small number of students, it's very easy to have them mix and meet and find out about each other. And then, of course, we go through the positive education program and those specific curriculum-based lessons that they have in positive education, which give an opportunity for each of our students in those small groups to tell us a little bit about themselves and to share with us what their strengths might be and to get to know each other very well. So it is although it may be daunting for students to be coming into Year 7 if they're the only student that's coming from their past school, we're very cognizant of that, and we do all we can do to make sure that they feel very comfortable very quickly.
Yeah, and there's a question that sort of relates to that, and it's about a child who might be struggling or very nervous going from Year 6 into Year 7. We're very used to this. We've had students as the only student from their school in our local area. We also have a number of students who come in from a different part of Australia, all from overseas. And we work with the mentor. One of the reasons we do interviews is that, and we're all involved in the interview process, is to ensure that we actually know a little bit more about your child. We run a program really where we're trying to assess, is this child going to need this extra and additional support? And Mrs. Peterson sends out to all the classroom teachers a range of things before the child starts. In addition to that, our house coordinators are absolutely brilliant in picking that, you know what, this child is going to need additional support. We this year have placed all our Year 7 students in the same areas for their lockers right in the heart of the school. And this means that we've been able to pick up any problems very, very quickly and manage those incredibly quickly, because we see the child that might look a little bit scared or isolated in those first few days. I have to say, within about a week, they're flying. However, we know that some students need that extra care. Absolutely. And that's really important.
I might just add in there also with at primary school, where a parent might have a classroom teacher as a main contact that will know their child extremely well. One of the reasons we have a vertical wellbeing program in the secondary school is to make sure that when you come into the secondary school with your Year 7 child, you also will have an individual person that you will get to know very well over time, that you can check in with very easily to see how your son or daughter is travelling at the school.
Now, when you grade the child to go into levels in Year 7,
Yes.
Is this across all subjects? Would you like to answer that one? And how that works?
Absolutely.
And the answer is no. It's
no,
not across all.
the answer is no, it's not across all. So we block our subjects in Year 7 and 8 into 3 different blocks. So English is connected with science, geography, history. Mathematics stands alone, and then we have our languages that is aligned generally with PD, Health, PE, and perhaps music. We do that because it gives students the ability to be in subjects where they are experiencing strength and getting the support where they need it. But it also means that they can interact with different social groups, because inclusivity is so important to us, and allowing students to work with peers from a range of different social groups is important. So that's the way we manage that from both an academic and a social perspective.
Absolutely. There's a question here, how can my child prepare for the scholarship exam? And it's not easy. It's not an exam that they can study, their timetables for, or that they can really, do lots and lots of writing for, or anything along those lines. I think my best advice is to keep them fairly relaxed. We know that kids feel these are very high-stake exams, and the more nervous they get and the more pressured that they feel, the worse they tend to perform. This is a general capability and thinking exam, and there are some things around in newsagents and whatever that have practice-type tests for that. What would you say, Mrs. Peterson?
Look, I think that it is a test that recognises strengths and capabilities, and students who are confident in those skills will perform well. That's the reason that you're applying for those scholarships and you're doing those scholarship tests. Keep doing what you're doing at school, and come in with a sense of confidence and that perspective that you're going to do your very best on the day.
Yeah, because look, they're measuring comprehension skills, they're measuring numeracy, they're measuring though you're thinking skills and your ability to make connections between things and to see differences and a whole range of things. So it's very hard to
It's probably more important how you approach the test on the day, I think. So. And coming in settled and then making sure that you read those questions very, very carefully and are considered in your responses.
I think that's probably the best advice we can give. And the last one, if you're unsuccessful in securing a scholarship, are you still able to apply for the school? Yes. But my feeling is now that you must put in an application form for the school itself. And of course, we want many students at this school. It's not all about scholarships, although I know a lot of people here tonight will have a child that's sitting a scholarship for this school. We want a diversity of learner. We want a diversity of child at Newcastle Grammar School. And we know that, you know, if you're thinking about a scholarship, you've probably got a child that's doing very well at school at the moment. But an academic scholarship here is hard to get. And we know that many students come to this school if they don't get a scholarship because they like some of the other things that we have on offer. And parents are really keen on the Wellbeing program, all that holistic education. Well, I think that's got us to the end of the questions. You got up lightly, Mr. Cozy. That must have been you explained that perfectly to begin with in all of that. Thank you for joining us. We're well aware that that's just about the hour now. We'll see many of you tomorrow at our open day. Thank you again for your interest in this school. We're very, very happy that we could do this tonight, and we wish you all the best and your child all the best as they begin the next stage of their educational journey. And we're looking forward to meeting them if they come here. Thanks so much, everyone, and good night.
Good night.